Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? Well, if you're hearing my voice, you know it's Thursday. I'm Marla Goldberg, and I'm your host at Guided Spirit Conversations. I am really excited about having today's guest on. And before I do, it's funny because as I was getting ready to introduce Brandon Wainwright, I was thinking about California, which he had lived at for a period of time, an extended period of time, I believe. Wanting to say prayers to all those out in California with the storms and the snow and being locked in. I'm hoping the sun is going to shine and it's going to melt and help the drought and let you get out of your hibernation, so to speak. So today's guest is, as I mentioned, Brandon Wainwright. Brandon was a former police officer in Los Angeles, and he saw a lot during his 12 years on the force. But nothing had been so strange or life-changing as the spiritual awakening he experienced when his dog, a precocious Chihuahua named Tyson, passed away, and then began communicating from the other side. Once a hard-nosed skeptic, Brandon found himself thrust into unfamiliar territory, consulting with spiritual intuitives and pet communicators in an effort to uncover the truth about the afterlife, embarking upon the I lost my consulting with spiritual intuitive uncover the truth about the afterlife, embarking upon an incredible journey that would shake his perception of reality and challenge his beliefs about what happens to us after we die. Brandon is an energy healer at his practice, Tyson's Gift Healing Arts, in Tallahassee, Florida. He does in-person and remote healing for clients all over the world. He has a book called Tyson's Gift, and he has launched his podcast this past, I think, October, and it's called Tyson's Gift Podcast. Welcome, Brandon, and what a great tribute and honor to Tyson.
Thank you, Marla. It's good to be here. I got to correct you though, real quick. That I was a police officer, not in Los Angeles, but in the San Francisco Bay Area. Close enough.
Sorry,
when you're coming from the other coast, they're pretty jammed together from that perspective. So I get it.
So, okay, what was it? Costa Mesa?
No, that is in Southern California.
Okay.
I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, so
okay.
the East Bay, 2 counties in the East Bay. Yeah.
Well, I stand corrected.
No, I just.
But that being, don't worry about it. I don't get offended that quickly. Brandon, we went to class together. Yes. I don't get offended though.
Yes, yes, we did.
So let's talk about you're a police officer. I don't know why I keep hearing hard-nosed police officer. I don't know if that's a description of you because today you don't seem so hard-nosed at all.
No, I never was hard-nosed. I mean, any police officer is going to be hard-nosed given if they're in certain situations, they have to be to survive, but not generally. Generally, how I am right now is how I was when I was on duty.
Oh, okay. Then you were just a marshmallow.
So well, I wouldn't go that far, but I wanted people to be comfortable. Like for example, when I stop somebody, I know how uncomfortable that is, and so I would do my best to be. Even when I was giving them a ticket, I would do my best to be cordial with them and let them know that it's not personal and I'm not upset with them, unless they did something really bad. But don't let it ruin your day. It's just a thing. Just trying to get people to pay more attention. That does make a big difference in the way people walk away from those experiences. You walk away feeling dirty and like somebody just, berated you, admonished you. That people are just generally not as receptive to the message. I'd rather them be concerned about getting the ticket, but also just wanting to do the right thing. That was kind of my approach.
Okay, so I don't know why it kept sitting in my head. It was just, and maybe it was a tongue in cheek from somebody on the other side, you
Yeah, or
know,
yeah, like
they know
hard
differently.
nosed. Yeah,
Like hard-nosed reporter,
or maybe to clarify that I'm not hard nosed. Not
maybe.
generally. Generally, I was very friendly with people, but I definitely had my switch, if it needed to be switched.
And we all do, don't we? We
Yeah,
do.
sure.
So let's talk Tyson. So you're this police officer. You're in the Bay Area, since I was corrected. You're in the Bay Area, and your little Chihuahua Tyson passes on. Do you remember the first message that came to you? Like the first thing you heard?
Well, the experience, it wasn't like that. It wasn't. Initially, I didn't get the message directly from him. At least not that I was conscious of. So when he passed away, I didn't have at that point, I didn't really have a defined spiritual paradigm, and I'm still, pretty open about it. I still don't believe that anybody knows firmly how everything works. Um, but I didn't at that point, other than I had have my fair share of experiences with religion, and not actually a part of it myself, but I dabbled here and there just as an, exploring, but I wasn't raised in it, and I didn't have a defined view on the afterlife. So when, other than I knew there was more, I just instinctively knew there was more. And I had come to the conclusion that I was never going to know what that was. It was, even for all my searching and trying to know what it was, I was never going to get to that place. And I just, in retrospect, I had just been looking in the wrong places. But at that point, that was where I was at. But when Tyson passed, he was very special, and I had a very close relationship with him, and he helped me heal a lot, and he changed my life for the better in a lot of ways. So when he passed, it was, and you know, throughout his life, I appreciated every moment with him. I made a special conscious effort to appreciate every day with him. And he passed when he was 14, but it was still not long enough. It never is.
It is.
Um, and I knew it was going to be difficult, but what I didn't count on was that within a couple days of his passing, I realized that I wasn't just mourning his loss, I was mourning his existence, or I was confused about, I needed to know that he was okay, is the best way to put it. And so I found myself, but I didn't think I was going to find that answer out. So I found myself searching just for comfort, and I found this book on Amazon. I punched in on Amazon, Animals in the Afterlife. And there's a book by Kim Sheridan titled Animals and the Afterlife. So that pops up, of course. And that book is, Kim Sheridan is a naturopathic doctor, but she's also an intuitive. That, as far as I know, that's not something that she's worked in professionally, but she is an intuitive, and she's had lots of experiences with different animals and animal communicators. And so the book is autobiographical, and it talks about um, reincarnation experiences that she had herself. And I was so intrigued by the story because it's, like I said, it's autobiographical. It was either, she's either telling this amazing story that deserves for me to dig deeper into. She's crazy, or she's lying. It's one of the three, is the way I could see it. But I was in such a state to where I was willing to be open to it. And so in the book, it refers to a number of animal communicators, and so I actually reached out to some of these. And long story short, I had 3 sessions. The first two didn't really get there for me. I was very, very skeptical, despite my desire to connect with him. And they were. I'm not saying they. I know they're credible communicators because they're very reputable, but what the information that they were able to share with me wasn't enough to convince me. But the third one that I did blew my mind, and that was over the phone. I'm in California, she's in Iowa City, Iowa. Sandy Casca is her name. And, there was so much information that was shared that was very specific and couldn't have been known by her, that I was really I that was a huge chink in the armor for my skepticism, where I would became even more open. And so that was actually the first communication I had with him was through her.
What
I
did he
mean,
say?
well, he described. I mean, he said the things that they always say, which is, I'm with you all the time. I
I'm
love you, and
okay.
I'm okay. But he described his relationship with me, my wife, and my daughter, all different, and he described them, but especially the one between my wife and him, and me and him, subtly different. There wasn't that big of a difference, at least not that you could describe without really knowing.
Right.
And she like nailed it. And I mean, it was, it was like that. I'm obviously talking to him, and some of the other things that were said just about why he came the way he came, all it made so much sense, and it was things that I kind of knew already, just intuitively, even if I hadn't articulated them before. And then uh, he described. I asked about it because at this point I was like, "Whoa, I think this is the real deal." Tyson had a bum hip. His right hip
Mm,
was it was developmental. We found out later, but um, through a medium, we found out later, and we never knew for sure. But his right hip never really developed. It was just this gnarled mess, and so he would walk around with his leg up,
aw,
because he was in pain. And eventually we had that hip removed, and then cartilage grew back in its place, and we waited too long to do it, mostly for financial reasons, but he did finally get some relief. But I thought, I'm going to ask about this. I'm going to ask about his leg and see. And she identified which one, and identified kind of, um, why she thought because his tail wagged vertically instead of side to
oh,
side, which is, I
oh,
know it's not unheard of, but it's very unusual. And so she talked about that, why the tail wagged that way, and it was related to his leg, and so it was just, it really blew my socks off. But then from there, I now this was all brand new to me. It was a whole new way of looking at life, whole new paradigm, and it kind of, it took slowly. And then when divine guidance kicked in, and it was time was right, I had a session with a medium that I thought that, okay, the animal communicator knocked my socks off. This one knocked me over the Grand Canyon. I mean, it was like,
really?
yeah, that was a life-changing event for me. This mediumship reading, because in the reading, I connected with my uncle, my grandma, my aunt, um, and Tyson, all four of them
There
in
was
the
a
same
lot around you.
yeah. And I didn't go in with any expectations. I hoped that Tyson would be there, but I didn't
Mm,
I didn't necessarily expect to connect with my loved ones. And I hadn't seen my grandma. I was 45 at the time. My grandma and my uncle both passed when I was 16. So
oh,
they weren't really on my radar. I still loved them and thought of them from time to time, but it wasn't something that was in my daily consciousness. And so that ought to tell you something. And the specific information that came through, for their personalities came through, first of all, but the specific information, that some of which was like hunches that I had, and
yes.
and like solidified these hunches. I mean, it was, you'd have to read about it, but
And
it's it
Tyson's gift.
in Tyson's gift, yeah. But it really proved to me, because there was no other explanation. There was no other reasonable explanation to how the information was coming through. The idea that she somehow did research or something, or to pull this information through, just didn't it. There's no way. And, she was telling me things even before, like when we made the phone call to set up the appointment, and she was saying things about him and his he has a little shrine that we had set up for him. She was describing his shrine. I mean, it was like, there's no other way that she could be doing this unless she was seen, and actually communicating. And so from that point forward, once that happened, I'm struggling trying to open my mind and my heart to this stuff because I'm very skeptical. That's why I was never able to become religious, is I just couldn't buy in. And I'm still very skeptical of religion. When it comes to specific belief systems, I'm not, and nothing against religion. Don't get me wrong. I think there's all paths to God, if that's what your intention is. But I, for me, I need to believe. I need to really believe this is true. And there was nothing else. There was nothing I was ever able to buy into, unfortunately, because I wanted to. I just never found something that really resonated with me. And so I finally found something that seemed very solid that I could buy into, and at least that this was real. And that's when I turned in an effort to grow spiritually, to experience my own intuitive abilities. That's when I learned Reiki. I s- I s- my
So
I
that
had
was your first step
that
going
was the
into
first
learning
step. Yeah,
things?
I had a colleague at work who had just recently taken the first level of Reiki. So she's like, "Oh, and I'm telling her about these experiences, and she says, "You should take Reiki. I think that would be a good step for you." And the thing is, the healing, I've always been drawn to that kind of work anyway. I mean, even police work is a form of trying to be a healer in a way. And so it seemed like a natural fit. So I went that route, and the rest, so I went Reiki 2, Reiki Master, Animal Reiki, and then I found Delphi, and and then I've taken quite a few classes at Delphi, and I'm hopefully going to finish my doctorate at the end of the year. But in Delphi, of course, Reiki is awesome, and it's capable of doing the same things they teach at Delphi, as far as it all that energy, all the energy healing is capable of miracles.
Yes.
But the stuff that they teach at Delphi just delves in deeper, and it gets you more in touch with spirit. It teaches you about really the heart of it. You really get into the heart of it, and being in that space of love and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of how it went down.
So, and then what prompted you to write the book?
Well, you know, first off, Tyson was a character. He really he was an amazing dog with an amazing personality. He wasn't he was like a person, which we've all had those heart dogs. I mean, if you're a dog lover, everybody's had that heart dog at some point. But he was just more more human than most dogs. Let's just put it that way. And so one, I wanted, I was interested in sharing memoirs of his life, but most importantly, I never would have done it without the metaphysical stuff attached. But what I was experiencing in opening up and finding the truth of our divine nature, um, not just not just a theory or a abstract idea, but an actual proof of it. I wanted to share that with people because I was experiencing so much peace and joy finding this out, and and finding out that, whoa, I actually feel this crazy vibrational energy going through my hands. I can feel it, and I can actually heal people with it. This is wild. This is like, there's so much more to the
Yes.
universe, to what's around us, than what we on a conscious level think about almost most of the time. And I wanted to share that with people because it was bringing me so much peace. I wanted to allow other people to benefit from my story. And it ended up being a pretty entertaining little book. So, but I was actually, so it was in my head. The idea of writing it was in my head, just for the reasons I just outlined. But my first Reiki teacher was a shaman, and she did a journey for me, because I was having trouble journeying. I tried a couple times, and the skeptic in me, just I would just lay there and fall asleep. I mean, it was like I was expecting, the way I was approaching it was just, it just wasn't working. And so she thought there was some kind of block going on, probably, that was causing it. And so she decided to do a journey for me. And in the journey, she found that that I was supposed to write this book. And so she came and she tells me, "Have you been thinking about writing a book?" And I said, "I've thought about it, yeah." She says, "Because it's like a big deal." So this is like a big deal that you're supposed to write this book. And she says, like, I think this is like a big part of your life mission is writing this book. And which of course it makes sense given what I was thinking about why I was considering writing it, because it would have this influence on people. And she said that my role as a cop would be helpful in getting it out to people. And so it all made sense. And you know, I I dragged my feet. I'd never written a book before, and I didn't know where to start, and I didn't think I had much of a punchline. I mean, I had these things happen, and I was trying to learn how to. I was becoming a healer, but to me, um, what I also believed that Tyson would reincarnate, and I was getting that message. Kind of, he was kind of evasive about it. He would generally say, you know, the readers would tell me, I get the he won't tell me if and when, but I get the strong feeling that he is coming back to you. And that was kind of consistent. And so I thought, well, I'm going to wait till he comes back. That'll provide the perfect punchline for the book. And then I had a reader told me, nope, that's book 2. you
Oh,
you have everything you need to write the book right now. So that's what I did. I went ahead and I just took a leap of faith and started writing. And once I did, it actually flowed pretty nicely. It was writing a book. That it's not really an easy task. It's a lot of work. It takes time and patience and dedication. But it did flow nicely. A lot easier than I expected it to.
which is amazing because yeah, my book very easy, but I kept getting spiritual insights from mine. So I would write and it's like, no, you need to do this. Oh, no, and then I had to, not rewrite the whole thing, but go back in and make space for what spirit was guiding me to do. And they'd say, no, 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 you need to do it this way. And I was like, okay. And so I can't tell you how many iterations I had of my book because spirit just kept pushing me
Mm,
along into what I needed to do.
yeah.
Everybody's is different.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't quite like that. I don't. The messages when I receive them, it's not quite as clear as it sounds like it is for you. But I know I was guided though because it just took
When
course and
it's
worked out.
most, yeah, when it's
Yeah.
most flows smoothly, it really is something that you find is meant to be.
Yeah, and right, and
You're,
I've got a
you're
second book
you're
that I'm going to
spiritually
write.
guided.
And that's my plan is to write the second one. And I recently had been kind of trying to outline it and figure it out, and it's not necessarily the right time right now. I don't feel like it's the right time. So
Are you planning on getting another puppy? Not necessarily a puppy, but another dog.
not planning on it. No,
Okay.
doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
And well, because I'm getting a strong feeling that your second book will happen when after you adopt your next baby. And
Do you see a particular dog?
I'm seeing a brown dog, but not dark brown, like one of those golden brown dogs, like terrier kind of mix. Not
Mm,
big, not a big dog, but I'm seeing like white, like it's got a black nose, but there's like a white spot behind the nose. Um,
yeah.
anyway, I'm just seeing this dog that is going to come into your life, and then
D-
once
d-
that comes in, you will start writing your next book.
does it look anything like a West Highland Terrier?
Is that the Dorothy book? Is that the Dorothy dog from The Wizard of
Yeah,
Oz?
yeah, kind of. Yeah, only
No,
a Westie is white. That's a
no,
black.
no, this is a short-haired dog. Could be a terrier. Could be another Chihuahua. They just have that, but it's not the giant dog. It's that lots of energy. I mean, it could be a oh, what's that terrier that is just so full of energy? Oh my God, I'm losing it, but I'm sure it'll come to me. But it's not a West Highland. It is
And
Jack Russell,
not a
like a
Chihuahua.
Jack Russell. Well, it could be a Chihuahua,
Is
but
it
it could be a Jack Russell.
anything like that?
No,
Okay. Hmm.
but it is that
Well,
color, juice color brown. That's a beautiful
that
picture.
she's brindle. Brindle on the
Okay.
on the head and the chest and the
Oh, is
legs,
she?
but that is Pepper.
Ah,
That is Pepper T. Wainwright. And Pepper T has meaning.
okay. Are
If
we
you
going
know,
to share with the audience? Pepper tea?
well, it's because she's Tyson.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I mean, that's part of I mean, he she actually came to us 2 months after I finished the book.
Oh, wow. So you have another dog.
I've got we have two other dogs. Yeah, but
Oh, okay.
we're we hadn't been planning on getting a new one anytime soon.
Okay.
Um,
I just feel when you get another dog, you're gonna restart your second book, and then voila, you'll
it'll
have it.
flow.
But yeah.
There's been a lot going on in my life. A lot. I mean, I've been going through one of those dark nights of the soul periods over the last few months.
So let's
It's
talk about Dark Nights of the Soul, just because the audience, some people will know what that means, some people won't. Not to get into your your Dark Knight details. I was going to say the dirty little details of the Dark
yeah,
Knight. But um,
the dirty details of the dark night.
it sounds like a novel, doesn't it?
It does.
Maybe that's the name of the book. But so is it a form of depression? Is it a form of you go inside and becoming very introverted?
It's just been, it's not just, it's been a lot of just change with with my family, with me, and as far as moving here and trying to get established here in Florida, and it's caused a lot of change for everybody, and major shifts in spirituality. Um, you know, not not necessarily. Well, I shouldn't say major shifts, but changes in the dynamic between my wife and me, and it's it it it's just been
Time for
really,
growth.
really hard. Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's serving a purpose of learning, but it's been tough. It's probably one of the toughest times of my that I can that I've ever been through, actually.
So, to
So
let people know, when you go through something like this, it can be very tough. But I feel that you have the faith to know that whenever you go through this, sometimes things have to break down to be rebuilt,
mm,
and it can be rebuilt better. Like sometimes you get a bicycle without a motor on it. You put a motor on it, and all of a sudden you've got this amazing motorized bicycle that gets you there so quickly. Right? I
yeah,
mean, it can be something that's just a metaphor, but an
yeah,
idea
no,
of how things happen.
yeah. It's just when you're in the thick of it, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You're you're grappling with it and trying to come to a place of peace and foundation, and it's hard when you're in the thick of it, but every other time I've been through something like this, there's lots of lessons that are learned. So there's a lot of gold that comes out of it. But it's hard earned, let me tell you. Hard earned. And but the good news, when it's all said and done, it's going to provide some great material for the second book, and that's part of why I haven't started writing it yet, is that it's like, I need to get to the other side of this so I can see,
I
and
mean,
that's kind of
you
why
have
I'm waiting.
faith that you're gonna, like it's like a flowing creek, right?
Hmm.
You're going through the rough, rocky part, and a certain period you'll go into a flow, and then things will be revealed. And they're like, oh, okay, that I understand now why I had to go through this. But you have to get through the veil of what you're dealing with before you come
Yeah,
out and be able to see. It's like going through a tunnel, right? So you go into a tunnel, you start out, it's a beautiful sunny day, you get in the tunnel. When you're in the middle of this very long tunnel, it's pretty dark in there. And then you come out and you see the light.
that's
And
right.
that's what going through a dark night of the soul is like. And it's about having trust and faith that whatever the reason you're going through it is for you to learn and to expand
You're right.
and to see more.
Yeah.
So
And there's
yeah.
definitely big gains to be made in it, but yeah,
Sometimes it's trying. Sometimes
yeah,
it's really challenging because it's like, oh my God, another day like this. But when you put your energy into working through whatever it is and from growing, you have choices on how you can take it. You can take it and you can get really depressed and get unmotivated and you can not leave your bed, or you can say, okay, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to lick my wounds, whatever those wounds are, and then I'm going to get on and be productive. I mean, there are choices on how to get through it, but eventually you find you'll find yourself going, wow, it's sunny again and it's bright again and I feel light in my loafers and I'm singing and my vibration is rising.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
yeah, there's always light at the other side.
always. But unless you don't, here's the thing, there's a choice. So we use the word always, but is it always? Well, if somebody chooses to stay in the darkness, then they're not going to find the light, or it's going to take twice as long or three times as long to come out.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's all a matter of choice and how you choose to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
And
100% right. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
it's
trying to
very
make the
simple.
right choices.
That's a good thing. Make those good
Yeah.
choices. And then so you've moved to Tallahassee from California. You have now have a healing arts practice. So let's talk about your practice and how you work with people and what kind of modalities you offer. And maybe give me a success story or two.
So, I started with Reiki, and I still do Reiki, in more on a distance level most of the time. But I offer the 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 modalities that I learned at Delphi mostly. So I do the spirit assisted healing, trance healing, um, more using spirit doctors where we call them in. Um, I do reflective etheric healing, which let me back up. You want me to go into a little more detail about each one?
Just a little bit, just say what it is, what goal and objective of this modality is. I mean, I know it's always to get the client to the sweet spot, what I call the sweet spot.
Yeah. So the spirit assisted healing technique, what that is it's you're as a channel. Like, for example, when you're working with Reiki, you're channeling Reiki energy. When you're doing spirit assisted healing technique, and all these energies, by the way, come from spirit. They all come from light. When that's what the intention that you set. But with spirit assisted healing technique, I actually have a spirit healing team of doctors on the other side, or in the
Hmm.
astral plane. And I have a surgeon, a nurse, a vet, and a master teacher. And I also have a gatekeeper. And I call in the archangels and Christ, and I have a whole team that I call in, and I let them work it out. I let them figure out who's going to do what. And but then I do it. I start channeling. Um, oh, I'm sorry. Please put the
No,
link.
don't. Oh, we
Oh,
just put the link to your
okay.
book up.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
And
So, so when I start to channel, when I start to do the healing, that is the energy that's coming through me. And the way I work with it is I scan, and where I feel spikes in energy, or where I can feel it pulsating, I know to work that area, and I stay on it until the energy starts to clear. And if it doesn't clear, I do laser cutting with the crystal, and I clear it out that way. Or with in person, I'll use color and sound also. I mean, I can't really do that distance, but I'll use tuning forks on the chakras and that sort of thing. Um, and I've had great success with that technique. I have actually a nice lady up in Pennsylvania that I started working with after my appearance on Coast to Coast. She heard me on Coast to Coast and looked me up, and so she had real severe pain in her arm. She fell, elderly lady. She fell on in two separate occasions
Ooh,
on her shoulders, and so she
ouch.
had this pain going from her shoulders down to her elbows on both sides. And so I started working with her, and the thing was, the physical therapist, the chiropractor, the doctor, and nobody had been successful in trying to figure out why they couldn't get it to stop for whatever reason. She had it for a couple of years. And so I set the intention, had my spirit team start working, and within a couple visits, she started to feel better. And now, where she was at a 10 pain wise, now even on the worst day, she's at a 3 most of the time. If it gets above that, she calls me, you know.
Nice.
And it's not, it's and actually the last time I talked to her, she said that it doesn't hurt at all. So that was a nice success. The other thing with her was, I not don't just work the areas that she told me, but her low back um, healed, and I wasn't even aware that she had a back problem. She said she didn't want to tell me that because she wanted me to focus on her shoulders, but her back miraculously had, I mean, it had been very painful for her, and it went away. The pain went away, just like
Excellent.
that. And she also had an issue with her right knee, and I did reflective etheric healing on that. I couldn't get it with the spirit assisted healing. Now, reflective etheric healing is, you know what it is, but so your etheric body
The
has four.
audience doesn't know what it
Yeah,
is.
your etheric body has 4 layers to it. Okay, so the chemical layer, life layer, light layer, sensate layer, and the reflective layer. Within the reflective layer, there is a blueprint for your body, all parts of your body, and it's from God. It's how God meant you to be, and it can be regenerated if if you pull from that reflective layer of the etheric body. So what that technique is the practitioner along with the client together, they manifest that body part from the blueprint in the reflective layer, and the practitioner implants it into the body, and it merges in with the old and replaces the old part that was broken or damaged somehow, and then the practitioner removes the old one and sends it to the light, because it's not a bad thing. It just has done its duty and needs to be healed. And that I couldn't get anywhere. The spirit assisted healing technique wasn't working on her knees, but that did. When I did that technique on it, it took care of it. So that was
Nice.
pretty cool. So there's that one. There's Kundalini light energization,
Hmm.
which is an amazing one. I learned that along with you. Actually, reflective
Yeah, we're
etheric too.
partners.
Yeah, well, yeah. Um, so that's where you're pulling the Kundalini energy through the chakras, from the root all the way up through the crown and out, even into higher chakras than that. And it's a really beautiful modality. The practitioner calls in, they called the brother lights. And I like in my, it's like kind of like a spirit doctor team, only it's that we call them the brother lights, and they're there for everybody. It's not a team that's specific to this particular healer. But you call these people, like Christ is one that I call in.
Yep.
um Archangel, I call in all the archangels, Divine Mother. I call in Akron, um,
Hmm.
who
Mauricia.
he was a man that created Brazilian light energization in the first place. And he's in the astral plane now. And so all these energies, all these spiritual helpers are coming in to help raise the vibration and pull that Kundalini light up through the chakras. And it's a very powerful technique. And from the practitioner standpoint, it's it really requires you to get into a space of love for the person. And I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking, or even platonic love. I'm talking about love for your fellow soul.
Love and
Listen,
compassion.
yeah,
Love and compassion and empathy for the being that you're taking care of through
yeah,
the healing modality.
and it's a very it's powerful, because it requires the most of it. With every healing modality, ultimately that's what they require. If you're even, the nice thing about Reiki is Reiki works You don't have to be skilled or anything. You learn the technique, and it'll show you that it works. Um,
Right.
but what I've found is that as I've learned these other techniques, especially Kundalini light energization, that being in that space of love makes you a better conduit for it. And it's more fulfilling for the client and the practitioner. And all the techniques that you do end up being more powerful because of the intent that you're setting and the intent that you're in the heart space that you're coming to the person with. And so I really that learning that technique really helped me grow as a healer.
It's a beautiful technique. It was rough for me to learn, but it's amazing to receive. And as a healer, when you give, you also receive. So it's a
Hmm.
win-win for the healer, giving it because you receive as well, and then you help the being on the table. I need to take a little break here because it's charity shout out time.
Okay.
And time is going by so fast. Your charity of choice is Leon County Humane Society, and that is talk about the Humane Society, how people can help, where it's located, and is this a local organization or is it worldwide or just national?
Well, the Humane Society in general is I don't know if I'm sure there's an international version of it, but this particular one I said it because it's the local one to where I live, and I know they do good work. They're a small organization. They their dogs are fostered. The cats they most well some of them are fostered too, I think, but a lot of them are kept in a kennel at their main area. It's all mostly volunteer, and they're doing God's work. They're trying to help the animals and get them homes, and um, I support what they do for obvious reasons. So,
So,
uh,
what do they need? What do you think they need?
I should have checked with them to ask them specifically, but I think donations. I mean, monetary donations are always good. There's always a need for toys, treat,
Blankets, towels,
yeah, exactly,
treats.
treats, things like that. Just the things that you would need as an owner of an animal that when you take on a foster, you don't necessarily have all the supplies you need for that extra animal. So it's helpful for them to have that. Yeah.
It's so true. So check out the website on our blog and reach out to Leon County Humane Society or the Humane Society closest to you if you want to donate actual material such as food, clothing, like in the winter, dogs get cold, blankets, pillows, treats, like you were saying, toys, things to keep them comfortable, happy, and engaged.
Yeah.
And of course, money. Money,
Yeah.
it goes, so helpful everywhere, right?
Hmm.
So, and now we've got your podcast to talk about. It's all about Tyson's Gift. Got Tyson's Gift podcast. Talk about the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Everything is named Tyson's Gift something because it all originated with him. And I don't believe for a second that wasn't by design, that he came
I-
in for a reason. He's teaching. He taught me a lot. And so I want to honor him by carrying on his namesake, you know.
It's honoring, it's tribute, giving him his due for what
Mm-hmm.
he gave you. It's a beautiful exchange of energy.
And that's why he's got a cape and a super chest plate
Oh,
on, because he was a super dog for me.
that's,
That was his
that's
idea too.
That's so funny. My Tuggy, he was named Tug the Wonder Dog. So I understand
Yeah,
the power that they bring to us.
they sure do. It's in yeah.
Absolutely.
So the
So
podcast is it's basically all things spiritual is the theme. It's the main purpose behind it is to focus on anything that sheds light on our eternal nature. So anything that reinforces that. So energy healing, animal communication, shamanism, mediumship, um, even ETs. That's even something that would go, because that is it questions our paradigm of what existence is, and it makes you think, and it makes you reflect on that eternal nature that we're all connected. Um, Bigfoot, even so far the main ones,
Is
I've only
Bigfoot
been.
an ET? Is he considered an ET?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not an expert, but yes, I think so. Um, and I think there's different species too of Bigfoot.
Of Bigfoot?
I mean, there's different. Yeah, I think so. Or what people would consider Bigfoot. I'm no expert. I've never had an expert on the show at this point, but most of the guests that I've had on have been either healers or mediums or animal communicators or that sort of thing. I mean, that kind of, that's my community too. So it's easy to connect with those types of people and invite them on the show.
So what day is the show on?
It is on Thursdays at 6. Well, let's go Eastern at 7 p.m. Eastern on WLTKDB.com. It's a digital radio station.
Nice. And I know if one specific guest you're having in June.
Yeah,
Um,
her initials are MG.
yes, that would be me. So I'm so excited about the turnaround of this.
I guess I should say DMG, huh?
Or our DMG. You're gonna forget the Reverend part.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
It gets
That is true.
lost. But so when you were going through this, I want to go back to the beginning. You're on the police force. Did you share this with your coworkers, your colleagues, that you
That
were going
yeah,
metaphysical?
that's a good question. That's one lots of people are curious about. Yeah, I did. I wasn't bashful about it. I mean, for one thing, where I was a cop in the San Francisco Bay Area, so people are a little more. They've been exposed to these types of things a little bit more so than, for example, where I am now in Tallahassee. It's the Bible Belt, and so there is a segment of the population that's open to that sort of thing, but a lot of people aren't at all. And I've it's been actually kind of tough. If you want to know the truth, being here isn't it hasn't wasn't if the energy healing was what I wanted to do, it was not the ideal place to do it. Um, but
Or it was the
then
perfect place to do it
or
because
that's what I was going to say. But then again, it's an opportunity to be here to expose it for people and maybe do a greater good than I would have done if I was just a dime a dozen type of thing. Uh,
and here's the thing, God's work is God's work.
yeah,
Healing, this is not nefarious work we're doing.
no,
It's God provided.
hmm
It's spirit provided. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years in various iterations.
yeah, absolutely. But when people have a particular religious paradigm that they subscribe to, and unfortunately, some people believe that the Bible says that you shouldn't be doing these things,
Right.
which
But the Bible
which
is written by men by men.
yeah,
It
well,
is
and
by
and
humans.
there's scriptures that say that you know John 14:12 says that Christ said, you if you follow, well, depend, this is where the translation is sticky, but he says you will do as I do and more. So what did he do? He healed people.
Right.
So if you
He
look at
is a
that,
prophet.
it's a pretty clear scripture that talks about men, women healing people.
And if this gives you any let's say hope, remember Delphi, where they're located. People around Delphi, the locals really didn't understand them. They still don't understand them, but more and more people are understanding and
Yeah,
they're opening up to them. And it only took them 25 years to do this,
yeah,
but they did it.
yeah, exactly.
They stayed in their lane. They kept, their nose. They weren't worried about the locals and they did what they did because those who are attracted to you are attracted to you for a reason. They're going to come to you.
That's right. I just haven't quite figured that out yet. How all that's going to work for me. So
Well,
so right now I have my website. People can come to me through the website,
which
and
is
which is tysonsgifthealing.com. So
okay,
there's
which will also be in our blog.
so,
All
so
these
they have,
all these links will be in our blog, but it's always nice that you can say where to go to look for this.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's
Brandon,
it. Hmm?
I'm sorry to interrupt,
No, go for
but
it.
well, we've got about 5 minutes left, and so what I want to put out there for you is that for you to share anything that you might want the listening audience to know that I haven't asked you about.
Hmm. That's a that's a good question. Uh well, that you haven't. Well, okay. Something. I guess this would be something non-spiritual related, but I before I was a police officer, I was I have a degree in film, and so I worked in Hollywood.
Oh,
I worked on the first Men in Black. I was just I never rose to any level of importance, but I was a production assistant on the first Men in Black, and then I worked for on Married with Children, the sitcom, the last 24 episodes, which was a dream come true for me because I loved that show.
oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I think I remember you talking about that. I didn't remember, but it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was what I originally set out to do, and it didn't really fit me being in Hollywood and the whole lifestyle of being a filmmaker. It's very uncertain and didn't jive with me as well as I had hoped. But you know, it was awesome to experience it, and I've made a feature film of my own, and I wrote some sitcom episodes and made a pilot, and all hobby stuff, but so there's that
Is
aside
this
from the
preparing
other
you for
stuff.
you to make a movie about Tyson and Tyson's gift,
You never
like
know.
Marley and me?
I think Tyson's Gift would make a fantastic movie. I think it really do. I think it would probably it'd probably end up appearing much different from the reality of the way it went down, but it would still, if they stuck to the main core
So
facts,
tell us
it would be
exactly
good.
not exactly, but give us an overview of Tyson's gift, the book. What is in it? What if people are going to read the book? What would you say that they're going to find out in the book?
Well, the first half of the book is like Marley and Me. It reads a lot like Marley and Me. It tells the story of his life, the impact that he had on me and my family. Um, you get a really good sense of his personality, and I think it's a beautiful story. And when it comes to, and then of course, like any animal story, autobiographical animal story, he he comes to the place where he passes on, and then from that point forward, it's about the process of coping with that, spiritually, emotionally, but it ultimately, and then it gets into the energy healing, and it gets into what all the things that I learned as a result of my life with him. And so it's ultimate, it does have his death in it. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but ultimately it's a very uplifting story.
Which is wonderful. And it also sounds like it's a book that helps people who have lost a pet, whether it's recently or not, with their grief process.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, the writing the story was, I didn't write it just to expose these ideas. I also wrote it because to help people cope with the loss of their pet, because it is, it is a very hopeful story. I mean, ultimately what it's telling you is that the animal isn't really gone,
No,
and and
it's not.
they're not gone when they pass. They're in a different form, and you know and the reality is that they can come back to you.
I,
I'm not
I
saying they will,
understand
but
that.
they can.
But here's the beautiful thing when you transition, they will all be there to greet you.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned. But when we had to put him down last June, an animal communicator shared this with me, and this might be, something that helps people, um, feel better about losing them, and that is that they're a soul group. So we have our individual souls, but dogs or animals have it based on their groups,
Mm,
and that my dog went back to the group to tell them like how great it is to be my dog. And so, my dog would be ready for me when I was ready for another dog. But the animal communicators actually said, go right away because they're waiting for you. They've heard all about you and they're waiting for you so you could find your next family, animal family member.
yeah.
And as I showed you before we got online, I've had mine for now 2.5 weeks. And I don't know yet if she's an incarnation of any of my dogs in the past, but she's a baby, so it's a little
Mm,
more challenging
yeah,
than
she's
adopting.
very cute.
Thank you. But just so people know that reading this book will help you with your processing of the grief. And, there are many people, I mean, up until 2 weeks ago, I felt a huge void with the loss of my
Hmm.
dog. And maybe because it was the last one and I had usually I have multiple, so there was always something to take my attention away to something else, another animal I had to focus on. But this time I didn't have one. And I think
Mm,
it made it much harder for the
yeah,
process.
yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, it's,
So
but now you have her.
I do. And you have your babies and things will glow brighter. So Brandon, thank you so much. I can't believe it. The hour has passed.
Yeah, same here, Marla. Thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you again in a couple months
Me too.
on
It'll
my
be so
show.
much fun. Yes, which will
But
promote heavily so people won't miss it. Um, so thank you for all you do regarding Tyson's gift. I'm like doing adult dyslexia. Tyson's gift, Tyson's Gift Healing.com, Tyson's Gift Podcast, the honor and tribute to Tyson. He is so grateful for you, honoring
well,
him
I'm grateful for
continuously.
him. Yeah, he's. Oh, this is something I cover in the book, but you can see that
Paw
right
print?
there, the paw print. Yeah,
A tattoo of a paw print?
that's his paw print. That was made when he passed. So his paw print's on my soul.
That's very cool. Tuggy's is like 4.5 inches big, so it's ginormous.
Yeah,
It's bigger than my arm. Your arm it might fit on, mine
it's
not so much.
it's
So
that is one advantage. It's the Chihuahua. If you're gonna get a tattoo, it's much smaller.
exactly. So thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you so much. Bridget, thank you for all you do. Right hand, left hand, my tech wizard. So grateful each and every day for you. I'm grateful for you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your day, out of your life to be a part of the show because the show, as I keep telling you, is created with you in mind, bringing you the most amazing metaphysicians like Brandon, spiritual thought leaders, psychics, mediums, etc., to bring you people and new techniques or more detail about techniques you might have wanted to look into. Next week's guest is Sean Randell, and he teaches the manifestation method. So please tune in. Also, if you're in the Charlotte area this Saturday, I'm teaching a class to help you raise your vibration for easier manifestation. It's a really nice, fun, experiential class. So if you are in the Charlotte area, he will be at Alara Day Spa. The address is 155 Joe V. Knox Avenue. I don't have the number handy, but you can look it up under Alara, and that's AHLARA, and that's from 10 to 11:30. As I leave you, as always, I send you love, blessings, and gratitude. So grateful that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it. For not only are you my student, you're my teacher. And not only am I a teacher, I am a student. So thank you and bless you all. Before I leave, I want to send you one more time my love to you. I love you. You are loved not only by me, not only by friends and family, but you have got so many beings on the other side of the veil that are just waiting for you to ask for what it is you need so that they conspire on your behalf and start working for you. The second part of that is be open to how it's going to come because it's not a logical, linear way. Most times it's very esoteric. You find it in a quote, in a passage in a book, something somebody says to you, or you overhear that conversation. So be open to the messages and how they come to you. I will see you next week. And until then, stay well.